Okay, let's get started. I'm going to keep this session to 30 minutes or less, and we'll be covering the basics of hosting a webinar, including how to choose the right platform, set realistic timelines, and also how to launch a program without overwhelming your team. So this week, it marks the start of Q2. It's April 2nd. So yay, we made it to the second quarter. And now is the perfect time to get started on your webinar program if you want to see some of those results this year. So before we dig in, I'll briefly introduce myself. I'm Julie, the newly minted founder of the Stream team and a marketer with over a decade of experience building and leading webinar programs. I know well the challenges of a small marketing team and the seemingly overwhelming lift of launching a webinar program. But with the right tools, processes, and templates, we can make it much easier to host webinars that drive pipeline, increase revenue, and build thought leadership. I launched the Stream team last week to make it easier for lean marketing teams to check webinars off their to-do list. And if you're looking for support this year, you can send me a message or check out the website at getthestreamteam.com. Mike, I see a comment in here, joining from Orlando. Thank you for joining. First up, what is the difference between a webinar and a live stream? This is currently a live stream. So a live stream is going to be a public forum. It's going to be on your social media platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. You might think of it as gamers do live streams on Twitch and that type of thing, but it can be used for business purposes as well. It's going to be good for if you have a large audience, you have a lot of attendees, or you want to build a community, build up your social media platforms. That's when you would use a live stream. It's different from a webinar. Most businesses are going to use a webinar, and that platform is going to give you a gated forum. You're going to have registration pages. It's going to give you attendee tracking and engagement metrics, which most businesses want. So you can personalize your follow-up based on who attended, how long they attended, what questions did they ask during the session, that type of thing. You will be able to see comments on a live stream, but you won't be able to see who attended the live stream. And if you're talking about a platform like YouTube, it might be difficult to associate your YouTube handle with your professional business name. So both platforms can be beneficial for your business, but if you're looking to generate leads and engage customers and build pipeline, you're going to want to host a webinar, not a live stream. So those are some of the key things to consider when you're trying to figure out which platform do you need and which type of event are you going to be hosting. So this leads us right into how do you pick a platform? So there are over 100 platforms out there to support webinars now. It can be kind of confusing and take a lot of time to find a new platform. When I started over a decade ago, there were two platforms. There was GoToWebinar and On24. There is still GoToWebinar, which I think is a great choice, and On24 is still too expensive. So there are a lot of other options you can choose from. And I have a great guide on my website that goes over some of the top 10 platforms, gives you a sense of which might be a good fit for you based on pricing and some key features. But it can be crazy to try to pick a platform these days. So if you need support with that, I'm happy to help with that as well. One of the key things to keep in mind with webinar platforms today is that they are all using attendee-based pricing. This is different. They didn't used to do that. And the trap here is that you basically get penalized for successfully getting people to attend your webinar. The live attendance rate on a webinar is going to be about 40%. But if you say 500 people register for your event, you have a tier for your webinar platform that allows you to have 200 people attend live. What happens when that 201st person tries to join or the 250th person tries to join? This is something that you really want to be mindful of when you're picking a platform and hosting these events, because you don't want to have poor performance for the live stream or the webinar, and you don't want people to get kicked out of the event. So this is something to pay attention to. Now, some platforms will say that they're not going to prevent people from joining the webinar, but you'll see degraded performance, whatever that means, and they'll notify you as you're reaching your attendee limit, which is great. But if you're hosting a live event, you're going to be worried about, are all the speakers here? Is everyone on camera? Is the audio working? You are not going to want to be looking at, oh no, I'm going over my attendee cap and worrying about how that's going to affect the session. So this is a big thing to consider when you're hosting webinars, when you're picking your platform, something that has really changed the market And I understand why they would make this change, because that attendee engagement and tracking is the value point of the webinar platform, but still can be a bit of a trap if you're not paying close attention here. Some of the other considerations for picking a platform: you're going to want to think about costs per user. So one tool might have a low monthly price, and that looks great if you're a one-person marketing team. But if you have a team of 3 or 5 and you want everyone to have access, you might be looking at a per person per month charge. So just keeping in mind that your pricing might not be as it appears when you first go to look at it, and factoring that into your budget for a webinar platform. There are some features that I'm seeing come out that are useful, but not necessarily needed for every user. So one of them is live captioning. We actually recently hosted a live stream, and we had a viewer on YouTube ask about captions. So that's actually going to be really good if you have an older audience, if you're going to be showing these things on Facebook or YouTube platforms where you might have older viewers. If it's for business use, the benefit of the live captioning is to support accessibility for viewers maybe with disabilities. So it's a useful feature. Not all of the platforms have this. It is something that you're going to have to add to your checklist when you're evaluating. But something else that is interesting here is local recordings. So that feature is going to be helpful for post-production. That basically means that all of your speakers are joining from their different computers. Their computer is going to be recording a local copy of everything that they said. And so if your live session has audio feedback or something that makes it into the live stream, you might want the local recordings to stitch together your videos that you distribute after the event. And so that's where that feature is going to be helpful. Also, if you have an issue with lag during the live session, the local recording feature is a useful tool. Okay. So I'm saying don't be fooled by all of the flashy features. Definitely zero in on the things that are your must-haves, but integrations is one of them. And the most important thing when it comes to integrations is, does it integrate with your CRM? There are some tools out there that integrate with a lot of things, which is awesome, but does it integrate with your CRM? If the answer is no, or you have to use a third-party app like Zapier, it might not be the best fit, especially when you're looking at getting leads to your sales team as quickly as possible and making sure that they have the information they need to follow up with people that attended the webinar. You don't want to have to export data out of the system and then upload it in Excel and then create these delays and inefficiency in following up with warm leads. So integration with your CRM is most important. And if they say, oh, we integrate with 100 platforms, that's not necessarily that great if they don't integrate with your platform. One more thing I'll call out related to the features of the platforms: most of them now have an option to do pre-recorded or an on-demand session. So if your speaker has a scheduling conflict, let's say you've already scheduled the event and they suddenly can't make that day and time, you could reschedule the event. You could also pre-record the session with the speaker and then run it live the day and time that you had already scheduled the event. You can also do these all called on-demand sessions. So after you record the initial video, people can sign up on demand and watch it later. This can also be good if you're nervous about going live. If maybe it's the first time and you're not sure about managing the technology, managing the slides, managing all the things at once, you might want to pre-record it and then host it. So that's something that can be a useful feature as well. The downside with that is going to be obviously that you can't answer questions live. You can answer them in the chat. You could also just see what questions come through and send a follow-up email. So keep that in mind. Okay, that is a lot of information. That's not even all of the tools and features that you're going to find when you're looking for webinar platforms. Something that I didn't really go over here is AI clipping is a hot feature now, specifically with the live streaming platforms. So it'll use AI to automatically generate clips for you, but then they usually still need some editing. There's a lot to consider when you're picking a platform. But like I said, there's a guide on my website that you can check out, and I'm also happy to help narrow down the focus. All right. We know the difference between a webinar and a live stream. We know how to pick a platform. Now, what are the different types of webinars that we can host? Some people will sign up for their webinar platform. They're paying maybe $100 or more per month for that platform, and then running one webinar per quarter or twice a year, they're not really using the tool, right? So it doesn't have to always be a lead generation webinar, which is what we think of most commonly when we're thinking about a webinar. You can do different types of webinars. So you can do a product demo, particularly if you have a software tool and you're frequently doing updates. You can also have a thought leadership session. That's what this is. You can engage your customers. So all of these types of communications will help engage your customers, but you can have content specific to your customers, like training, or if you host a customer conference online and you bring in thought leaders to speak to them directly, you can have them connect with your product team for live Q&A. So there's a lot you can do there specific to customers only. And then finally, there's the internal town hall. I remember years ago when we would all call in on the conference line. So we're all just sitting at our desks on the phone, thousands of employees all across the country calling in to hear the CEO and the leadership team talk. You can do a way more engaging format now. You can have a webinar for that, and it's going to be that gated private session, employees only. And you can have slides, visuals, you can have employees asking questions live. If you don't want to answer them live, you can answer them later, but at least you'll have that information coming in and it feels like a more engaging format for your employees. Going back to the lead generation webinar, which is what most people think of when we talk about webinars, the main thing I would say about this is don't make it a 40-minute sales pitch. I think that's the biggest trap of a lead generation webinar. You want leads, you want them now. You want to move them through the funnel and generate new revenue for the business. That's great. This model works best when you pick a topic specific to your industry, and then you show how you add value or solve the problem. So you would use most of the time with a subject matter expert, either on your team or someone that you are partnering with, talking about something specific to your industry. And then at the end, you could show a little preview of your software solution or your product, how you solve the problem. You're just giving them a little bit of a taste of how you can help, and then leaving them wanting more, so that when your sales team follows up, or they might reach out before they get a chance, they might come to you asking for more information. But then you're not overwhelming them with a sales pitch. You're not creating a negative brand association by kind of misleading them into, hey, come to my 40-minute sales pitch. You're giving them valuable content, showing that you're an expert in the field, and then showing how you solve the problem. That's the best way to do a lead generation webinar. For a product demo, this could just be someone from your sales or product team, a monthly session that is showcasing the latest updates, gives prospective customers an easy way to learn more without the overwhelm of scheduling a one-on-one demo. Sometimes that becomes a blocker. You're looking for a tool, you can't find certain information, or you want to know more, but you're not ready to talk to sales. So if you have a product demo that is recurring, that's another way that you can get people in. Thought leadership. So that one, pretty self-explanatory, is your opportunity to showcase your expertise. You can invite a partner or host a panel discussion to establish yourself in the market. It's going to give you great content to repurpose all across your channels. So that one's something to keep in mind as well. And then we already talked about how do you engage customers, how do you engage employees. So consider all of these opportunities for webinars and make sure you're really getting value out of your webinar platform. Let me know if I'm going too fast. Okay, we are at timeline to launch. So one of the things that is overwhelming about webinars, you sit there and you just think about all of the things that you have to do, and there's not a plan, and you're just like, it's going to take too long. I don't have time for this. So you end up not doing it. It gets pushed to the bottom of the to-do list. I'm proposing this 2-4-2 model. 2 weeks, which can be an aggressive timeline, but 2 weeks to prepare. So you're going to pick your platform. You're going to optimize your platform. You're going to build out your templates, your landing pages, emails, graphics, get everything set up and ready to go. You're going to determine your topic and your speaker during this 2-week sprint. And then you're going to give yourself 4 weeks to promote. I did not do that for this session. I gave myself 1 week, which is not what I would recommend. But I really wanted to get this content out there for the start of Q2 so we can start thinking about how do we get webinars going this year and start providing value, right? So you're going to give yourself 4 weeks, and that's going to give people time to block their calendar so that you actually have a high live attendance rate. That's going to give you time to increase the registration count. So if you're sending multiple promotional emails, multiple social media posts, if you're running ads, if you're working with partners, 4 weeks is going to give you plenty of time to promote the event so that you get good registration and then hopefully good live attendance rates. things come up. So even if they block it 4 weeks in advance, they might have a last minute meeting. They might not be able to join the session, but you're going to do everything you can to make it very easy for them to attend this live session. And then the last 2 weeks are arguably the most important and the part that we like to skip. So we do all this work preparing for the webinar, and then it's done, and we're like, great, we did it. But you now have a really great piece of content that can give you at least a month worth of marketing content. You can turn your recording into a blog post, into a video for your YouTube channel, into clips for social media. You can turn this into follow-up emails to people that registered, people that attended, people that also didn't engage. Maybe they're just on your contact database and they didn't register, but they're still interested in the content. So you really want to take this piece of content that you spent a lot of time creating and promoting and continue utilizing it as much as you can to get as much value as you can out of the webinar session. So don't skip the last 2 weeks. The other thing that you do during this period, usually within 24 to 48 hours, you're going to want to send internal reporting. So letting your staff and your speakers know how many people registered, how many people attended, how successful was the event, giving them links to share the recording, giving them messaging that they can use to help further distribute this content. So making sure that you do that engagement report, and also a post-show debrief. So looking at what went well, what can we improve for next time, making sure that you're taking the lessons that you learned from this session and working them into your next session so that you're getting more value out of that. That concludes all of the slides that I have on this topic, which is a lot of information. Like I said, if there's something you want me to go back to, let me know. Please take some time to post questions in the chat and I will answer those live. And we've got about 10 minutes, which is what I was aiming for, because I really want this to be more about answering your questions and showcasing how webinars might seem scary, but we actually can do them in an efficient way and make this process a little bit easier. Okay, I see one question already from Mike. Thank you, Mike. So if we use the Stream Team service, do we sign up for the webinar platform ourselves, utilizing your guidance, or utilize a platform you already have an account with? Or does it depend on the level of package we sign up with you? Okay, so there are 3 core packages on my website. So I'll just touch on those briefly and then answer the webinar platform question. So you have the strategy audit, which is sort of entry level. I don't know where to get started. I just need a consultation. That's a paid consultation. You're going to get a roadmap and detailed plan on what to do next coming out of that conversation. The next tier is the Launchpad. That's all of the technical setup. So everything that I kind of breezed through on all of the templates, you're going to need landing page templates. You're going to need email templates. You're going to need social graphics. You're going to need the registration page, which might be managed through the webinar platform, or you could be embedding it into a landing page on your CRM. You want to create all of these assets so that you can easily clone them and run them for the next webinar. So that's all the technical setup. That's the Launchpad. That'll also be the dry run. So you want to do a dry run about a week before the live session with your speakers. Make sure everyone is prepared. Make sure that they have permissions and everything for the platform. Sometimes you have a speaker join the dry run and they don't have the video or audio permissions. You do not want to find that out the day of the live event. So that's the dry run. All of that's included in Launchpad. The final package is the largest, most comprehensive. So that package is end-to-end webinar production. That's the showrunner. So wherever you're at, we're going to start and we're going to build out all of your assets. We're going to give you all the templates. We're going to give you all the prep materials for your speakers. We're going to do the dry run. We're going to be there for the live event as well to support you. And then we're going to do some of the post-production. And then you can also get add-ons for additional content creation and that sort of thing. So within all of this, you do need to have a webinar platform. I can help you figure out which platform you need, but that's something that you're going to have to budget for separately and make sure that you are maintaining, because when we are no longer working together, we have this setup where you're good to go, you are ready to run your own webinars. You keep the webinar platform, it's yours. So we want to make sure you're on the right platform, and then we want to make sure that it's configured for you to successfully host events moving forward. Yeah, so that addresses how do we sign up for the platform and then also level of the package. Also, I'm seeing a question around what makes the Stream Team different from other service providers. When I looked at the market, I saw a gap. So there are these expensive event production companies or essentially freelancers on Fiverr or Upwork. I'm trying to be that middle tier. I'm trying to be the accessible, affordable solution, the strategic partner. You're not going to be spending thousands and thousands of dollars on high quality budget, like big event production. We're not broadcasting this on TV. We want to find a solution to be able to get webinars off the ground. We want to actually start doing them and generating revenue for the business. So that's where I'm trying to position myself here, is that middle tier, that strategic partner that's affordable, accessible. I did also see one webinar platform will offer you 2 hours of support from their team onboarding for about $500 or $600. So that's another option. But if you're someone that's just like, I'm overwhelmed by this whole process, I need guided support, that's where I'm going to come in. Whew. Okay, a couple minutes left here. Get those final questions in. I'll address this question, which is kind of top of mind for me. But what happens if you do all of this work and then no one shows up to your webinar? This is why post-production is so important, because even if you have a low attendance rate or no attendees on your webinar, you're learning from just doing the whole experience, right? So you're going to get value out of that yourself and be able to do it better next time. But also you're getting a piece of content that you can then repurpose into all of these other pieces of content and continue to push this. So it's not just about the one day, the live event. The post-production is incredibly valuable. And even if you have low attendance rates, you can still utilize that content in a lot of different ways. And so it's not time wasted. You're still going to get value from that. Any other questions? Okay. I'm going to throw in the last one, which I recommend you do when you have speakers on a webinar. I'm going to ask the question to myself, which is there anything else you'd like to add? And this is a really critical question to ask your speakers because it becomes the closing remarks. So it is usually the piece of content that when I'm editing a video, I'm going to take that and it's going to be the sound bite that becomes part of your highlight reel. It might be able to stand alone if it's a 1 or 2 minute segment. But it is one of the key pieces of content that you're going to get out of the recording is just asking, is there anything else you'd like to add? And then your speaker will sort of naturally recap the key points of what they just said, and you have a really great soundbite moving forward. So what I would like to add is that webinars don't have to be hard, and you don't have to push them to the bottom of your to-do list. And we have templates and processes. And once you have these things in place, many of the components are repeatable. So you can save time on future events. It's all about just getting efficiency and kind of doing the reps. So you do it one time, we do it as a guided process, and then you're going to be ready to run webinars on your own, or we can continue working together to host more. But it doesn't have to be this kind of big scary monster that everyone wants to do but avoids. So if you need help getting your webinar off the ground this year, feel free to contact me at getthestreamteam.com. I'm going to help your team get go live ready, and we're gonna get this done.